Welcome to this explainer. Right now, we're diving straight into some truly fascinating and honestly pretty provocative philosophical writings. Everything we're unpacking today comes directly from the teachings of Xuefeng, the founder of Life Chain One. We are going to look specifically at his essay on attachments and spiritual elevation. So, whether you end up finding his ideas challenging, inspiring, or maybe a bit of both, our goal is to just neutrally and clearly lay out exactly what he argues. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's start with a really compelling paradox Xuefeng throws at us right out of the gate. Have you ever noticed this? He asks, if you're walking firmly toward this magnificent, luminous goal, why do the people walking alongside you become fewer and fewer? At the start, the path is super crowded, but as you keep going, you find yourself increasingly isolated. Why would a journey towards something so undeniably positive result in such deep solitude?
Section 1. The Lonely Climber.
Xuefeng kicks off his argument by comparing our personal and spiritual journey to climbing a mountain, a very lonely mountain. He meticulously maps out how we naturally just lose touch with different groups over time. Middle school peers, college classmates, coworkers. He even notes a very specific pattern with online friends. At first, chatting with them tastes as sweet as honey, but as time goes on, that flavor totally changes. It becomes as tasteless as wax, until their very images just fade completely from your memory. It's not that these people have died, it's simply that you can no longer walk together.
So, here is the absolute bottom line. As long as you stay put, your social circle stays right there with you. But the second you breaking through those old traditional values, moral views, and worldviews, people inevitably part ways with you. Xuefeng argues that moving toward a great goal requires constant breakthroughs. And with every single breakthrough, someone takes a different path. Eventually, you become so isolated that even the people who used to argue with you or insult you are nowhere to be found.
Section 2. The Butterfly's Metamorphosis.
To explain why this separation happens, he says true transformation isn't just learning something new, it's a fundamental mutation of your nature. Think of a pupa becoming a butterfly. You absolutely have to shatter your protective, original cocoon, your old self. Then comes step 2, which is incredible pain. You have to survive metaphorical storms, thunder, and lightning. It is literally a process of dying and coming back to life. And because it's so excruciating, he argues the vast majority of people just cannot endure it, and their own inertia inevitably pulls them right back to their original state.
This brings us to one of Xuefeng's most blunt, uncompromising views. He says the moment a living being becomes completely convinced of its own correctness, transformation just stops, dead in its tracks. It becomes impossible to elevate any further. He uses this incredibly stark metaphor. If absolute self-righteousness takes hold, then if one is currently a pig, one will forever be a pig. It completely eliminates any hope of ever evolving. It's a massive warning against spiritual stagnation.
Section 3. The Gap in Cognitive Realms.
Now, as you transform, this unbridgeable cognitive disconnect forms between you and the people who haven't changed. Xuefeng pictures people standing at the top of a mountain, looking at people at the bottom. To each other, they both look incredibly tiny. The person at the top is eating this grand, luxurious feast, and they pity the person at the bottom just surviving on wild fruit. But here is the fascinating part. The person eating wild fruit feels immense sorrow for the person eating the feast. Their different cognitive boundaries create completely different realities of what is actually good. To really drive this point home, he brings up this hilarious anecdote from the classic Chinese novel, Journey to the West. The Tang monk is offered a priceless, immortal ginseng fruit by a young Taoist boy. But because the monk's cognitive level is constrained by his mortal earthly perspective, he actually mistakes the magical fruit for a human infant. He doesn't just politely decline the supreme gift, he complains that the boy is trying to make him violate his Buddhist heart. Xuefeng points out how laughable this is, showing exactly how a lower cognitive realm completely misinterprets high-level gifts.
What's really wild is how Xuefeng applies this ancient concept to the modern internet age. He asserts that you can accurately judge a soul's level simply by looking at what they post or share online. No matter how much someone dresses up their profile, their true inner world always slips out. If someone is a fly, they will inevitably share dog dung. If they are a bee, they're undeniably going to share flower nectar.
Section 4. Who is truly pitiful?
He begins this section by expanding on a core Life Chain One dogma. There is no wrong soul in the world. But then he pushes this concept even further, taking it to its absolute limit, stating that ultimately there is no one in the world worth pitying.
So if no one is fundamentally a victim, who exactly are the people we tend to view as pitiful? Well, according to his analysis, the people who appear the most pitiful actually harbor very specific low-frequency traits. He argues that the more pitiful a person is, the less humility they have. They're far more stubborn, they cling tighter to their attachments, they are blindly convinced they are always right, their spiritual frequency is lower, and they are incredibly selfish and ungrateful. Basically, their pity is entirely self-inflicted by their own rigidity.
Xuefeng then offers this highly specific, incredibly blunt definition. He asks straight up, who is a pitiful person? And his answer? Someone who either cannot read the very article he has written, or someone who reads it but refuses to like or agree with it. It is a bold statement that essentially claims his text is a literal litmus test for your spiritual flexibility. If your rigidity makes you reject his teachings, he defines you as trapped in that pitiful state.
Section 5. Let go to elevate.
As we get near the end, Xuefeng argues that the doors to heaven are actually always wide open for you. The reason you can't find them isn't because they're hidden. It's because your spiritual eyes are blocked. They're blocked by your high walls, the things you deeply value, the things you aggressively pursue, the things you stubbornly persist in, and the things you desperately try to maintain. These everyday attachments trap you in what he calls an inescapable silken web cave.
Before concluding, he delivers a massive, humbling blow to the human ego. He talks directly to the reader, saying that when you feel super smug and deeply proud of your own great achievements in the mortal world, you need to remember something. A fly experiences that exact same beautiful, blissful feeling when it discovers a pile of fresh dung. Our grandest earthly attachments, in the grand scheme of spiritual elevation, might literally just be waste.
Bringing all of these intense metaphors together, the lonely climber, the butterfly, the mountain, the fly, it all boils down to this single overarching thesis from Xuefeng's essay. Your attachments are not your strengths, they are your prison. What you cling to will inevitably become the very obstacle to your sublimation.
We're going to leave you with this final, challenging thought to chew on. As you reflect on Xuefeng's provocative philosophy from Life Chanyuan, ask yourself, what are the high walls in your own life? What great achievements are you fiercely guarding right now that might actually be keeping you from taking flight? Take some time to look at your own attachments, and we will see you in the next explainer.